Okay, we're going to put in the IKEA floor. Here's the IKEA floor. It's real wood glued to some kind of paper product. It's hated by real carpenters everywhere, but it's great for people like you. And it's real wood when you walk on it. So these are the planks that come from IKEA. A giant blue and yellow cuboid that lurks on the outskirts of many cities across this globe. Probably visible from space. So these are compressed from some kind of wood product, and that's real oak that's stuck on the outside. These are made by a company that I suppose we all can't help loving despite their dubious acts during World War II. Of course, it's hard to judge. What would each of us do if we were in the position that the Swedes were? Remove everything from the room, apart from the stair stepper. It's important to leave the stair stepper in there. And then you'll need a droid. I use a R3D4 model. It's good at cleaning up the floor. Come on, Red, let's go. So you should look for any holes in the floor. Here's a hole, and we're gonna fix that hole. I know there's a hammer there, but I'm gonna screw the floorboards in because I'm not a real carpenter. So here's a hole. You should always look for treasure in there. If you see a hole like that, you don't see any treasure in there. It's a pity. So we're going to fill up the hole. We're going to put a couple of pieces of 2x4 in there and screw the old floorboards back on top of them. Here's the instructions. These are in so many different languages and include pictograms, including this very strange looking human here, which show you how to do this. There's also a video on the IKEA website which omits many of the pitfalls that you might encounter. That's what YouTube is for. This is a pretty small room. It's a Gitmo detention cell come PhD thesis writing standard size incarceration unit. That's exactly 8 feet across the back, and it has a piece of underlayment there which is 1/4-inch plywood. I don't know how many millimeters that is. But we're going to make it a tiny bit shorter because it's a good idea for this to be just a metric hair less. Here's the list of tools that IKEA recommends for this job, and here's the actual tools that I'm using at present. There's quite a few more there. I don't know if you can see all that. I use a circular saw and a jigsaw, and I needed my box of hardware definitely to screw down the underlayment, and a hammer and a mallet, and a utility knife. Don't need utility knives in there. You definitely need that for cutting up that plastic stuff. And saw horses are nice. And there's a droid. So we're also going to need a tape measure. There we are. Starrett, America's finest measuring tools, 100% recycled. So you see, in Cartoonland, Sweden, rooms are square. But this room, although it has a pretty straight line down this side of this piece of underlayment, on the other side it's far from square. This room was built by Americans in the 1920s, around about the time that organized labor was completely destroyed. So we're going to have to carry on and rectify, literally, some of those things, but only on a very small scale, by trimming off a little bit of this here corner of this underlayment so it lays square against the south wall of this room. Doesn't show that in the video, does it? And this is harder than it looks. I used to have this job measuring things to sort of 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch, and you just can't do this with this. there's a degree of trial and error however careful you are, because the walls aren't completely parallel, and in fact they're wavy. So you got to cut these pieces of plywood to match the waves in the skirting board, or baseboard as we Americans call it. So there's a subfloor. Again, a little bit harder than it looks. And here's little rolls of plastic. This stuff's really just like bubble wrap. It's not kind of as good as I hoped, but it's got kind of a bouncy feel. Well, that's the easy part done, the rectangle part. This thing doesn't exactly fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, but it's almost as easy as it says it is. Here's the more or less completed item. Things I would say which were different to the instructions is that it's actually easier to use a piece of the flooring itself, like a little offcut, than the plastic wedges that IKEA has to space the thing out from the wall. Also, the sawdust from this thing is extremely fine, so you'll definitely need your Android.